gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here with you. And let me start by saying that for Africa, a Copenhagen deal without agriculture is no deal. And indeed for the whole world. COP15 without agriculture, without forestry, without sustainable land uses is no deal. Let me echo the words that were shared this morning by the President of IFAD. Food security and climate change are inseparable. They cannot be divorced. Climate change is an issue at the heart of sustainable development, so is agriculture. And when we talk of sustainable development, we're looking at economic sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental sustainability. We stand here today with 1 billion people going to bed hungry every day. And this is because the world architecture has failed to generate enough food resources to feed everybody. Now, why the close link between agriculture, food security, and climate change? For us in Africa, the link is simple. Of the land that we have that we can put under irrigation, only 4% of potential irrigable land is under irrigation. That means we depend on rainfall. Rainfall is highly variable. We do not have the tools to predict and know in advance how much of it is coming. And our farmers are stuck with the reality of taking risks every day. They go to the fields for 6 months only to harvest nothing. And they've been reduced to poverty, and yet they have the potential to not only feed themselves, but to feed the world. Let me just in 30 seconds share with you a bit of the background. An ordinary woman farmer in Africa is still using just 10 kilograms of chemical fertilizer per hectare compared to and this constitutes just 1/10 of what our Asian farmers have been using. Now, what does that mean? The same farmer is paying 80% more for input because of poor infrastructure development. We have not invested in research and development. We have not invested in infrastructure that will allow our farmers to access technologies. Now, where are the gaps in knowledge, and how can we meet these farmers who want to farm, who do not want to be on the food basket case, but they want to be producers? Where can we meet them halfway? First, let's look at the information that they need. There's a big divide between the agricultural science and the climate sciences. Farmers do not have the simple data that allows them to make decisions on when to go to land to plant. When I grew up, 10 November was the date when farmers had to go to the land, because that was the week when rains would come. Up to today, that is the recommended planting day for Southern Africa, particularly for Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Malawi. How can it be with everything we are facing? When I grew up, my grandmother always carried just a small bag of fertilizer and applied a teaspoon to every plant that stood. And this is what is still happening 60 years later. How can it be? We need to modernize our agriculture. We need to improve productivity. However, we need to empower the marginalized stakeholders to sustain the diversity of agriculture and food systems, including the cultural dimension. When we say modernize, we are not forgetting what the farmers have always known, have always done, but we need to build from the base. And why are we doing that? We do not have the local data. We have not focused on the livelihoods of these farmers. We are not collecting data that allows us to understand the livelihoods of these farmers. Most of the debate is happening at national and global level, and nobody is investing time on those household livelihood strategies that will allow us to tell the story bottom up and then meet our farmers in terms of complementing the asset base that they have, the knowledge base that they have, the physical assets that they have, and the natural resource base that they are harvesting from. Secondly, in terms of our soil quality research, we are not developing enough tools and technologies that will allow farmers to understand the natural resource base that they have. All this is done at agroecological level, but at farmer level, it's always been blanket all will fit everybody. Recommendations are not tailor-made for individual farming systems and farmers. And the crop varieties. What we have on the shelf is limited. It has not grown because of the policies that we have put in place that do not allow crop breeders to invest in generating new varieties that get sufficient market. So that too needs to be addressed. Now, what else is happening at national level? The divide between agriculture science and climate science is big. And unless we look for multidisciplinary approaches that will allow closer linkages between the climate scientists and the agricultural scientists, we're always to plan in silos. This is then reflected in the ministries that develop the policies. You have the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Energy, all talking at each other, not with each other. And I think we need a closer linkages. Now, coming to the issue of policy, I think one major issue is that Africa is an oral culture, and yet we are not investing in multi-stakeholder dialogue platforms that allows evidence that is generated locally to be shared locally and incorporated into local policies. Most of the policies are tailor-made at national level without stakeholder involvement, without the real people, the farmers, that are going to utilize this. So we need to open up space, both on the government side, help our governments understand that they need participatory policy processes that allow input from our think tanks. If you look at the 5,000 think tanks in the world, only 5% are in Africa. And that means that all the evidence is generated internally by government and utilized by government. We need to open up space. Our universities are not investing in local data generation, and we need databases that are housed in Africa that can be used for forward-looking, proactive research that will inform decision-making at local level. Ladies and gentlemen, I think a deal from Copenhagen without agriculture is no deal for Africa, is no deal for all of us. Thank you.